Dialectic Space podcast. I have with me Latirr Carr, and we've had some problems with the internet from the Gambia, which Lat is currently stationed at. I suspect, as it is for most of my guests that I speak to from the Gambia, internet is as erratic as it is problematic, and that has been very consistent for a while. But yes, Lad is an engineer by profession and deeply into creative arts, but also a lot of writing and has a lot of perspectives to share. And I've asked him to come here to share part of his journey with us. Lad, we're going to take this again. Welcome to the Dialect Space podcast. How are you doing?
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, I'm in a darker space. I prefer doing this at the office, but it seems the connectivity over there is a bit poor. So I had to move locations, third world issues. But I'm very happy to be on this. If we can't really complete everything you had in store, there's always a next time.
Yes, absolutely. And that sort of excites and settles me a little bit because, obviously with the internet situation, we can't do much about it. It's a thing that, like you said, a third world problem.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, like, for the purpose of this conversation, I would like to begin with, getting to know you, obviously. Like I said, your story is very multi-layered. There is various aspects of you that most people don't know. The obvious part is that you do a lot of writing, and you had a column also in Standard newspaper many years ago. And you're very bold. Sometimes you get into a lot of uncharted territory in terms of opinions that most people wouldn't. But that's what makes you who you are. Is your passion, is your wittiness, is your ability to articulate your thoughts unapologetically. And I've always really admired that since I've started following you many years ago. So I'd like to begin with knowing the man. Of course, like I indicated earlier, we know you went to Gambia High School and you served as head boy in 2002. We also know that your dad was principal of Gambia High School, Willie Carr. And there's really wonderful stuff about him online and the impact that he has had on the lives of other people. But really, talk to us about your formative or your upbringing. What sort of household did you grow up from? Are there books or individuals that influence or shape your upbringing? And how impactful was your dad to your interest in terms of knowledge or other areas that you eventually chatted into?
Thank you very much. To start off, yes, you're right. My dad, Willie Carr, was principal of Gambia High School for a while, vice principal for an even longer while. My mother was also principal of Ningdao and was vice principal at Latrikunda Junior Secondary School, now Upper Basic School, and was also principal at Charles Fowlis
Mhm.
Senior Secondary School. So I was born to two educationists as parents. Uh, my dad is perhaps the more popular one, but there are a lot of people that schooled through my mom who never really got educated by my dad. So it was more of an educationist upbringing.
Mhm.
I was always surrounded with books. My dad loved his books, as did my mom. And we were never forced to read, but just being in that environment, I think, created a good platform to seek knowledge, to gain it, and to appreciate it. And
Mhm.
my parents raised a lot of people. We count sometimes, and it goes above 40. So when I was a child, I had 11 siblings or 10 at every point in time, even though my biological siblings were two. I have two older sisters. I'm the last born, my child. Um, and I am grandchild to Alice Carr, who's perhaps even more popular than my parents in Banjul. She was one of Gambia's most successful entrepreneurs. As a woman, she charted territories that men didn't dare.
Mhm.
She had Gambia's first and perhaps only tile factory in the Gambia. Her tiles were in homes in Gambia and in Senegal. A lot of people would remember those thick cement tiles that had blue and white or red and white or black and white stripes. Those came from my grandmother's factory. And she also started from quite humble beginnings. So
Mhm.
that's the family I was born to. We're quite small. My dad has, I think, six, seven siblings, as does my mom.
Mhm.
And right now, it's only my mom and I and a cousin of mine who are stationed here in the Gambia and an uncle, Uncle Dero. So that's my family and that's my upbringing.
So, another interesting aspect to who you are has to do with also somewhat your identity in regards to I think you wrote an article in the past. I think, or Watson Gambia wrote an article first off in 2015 has been one of the most prominent young people in the country, and congratulations, on that. The impact that you've created in the Gambia is significant, but also is the idea of, in the Gambia we are very prone to identifying people that for some reason by their last name to be non-Gambian. It's a thing that people are mostly subjected to, and mostly it comes from immigrations. And I think in some way you said, I think, is it because of how you look or because of your last name that you are mostly being mistaken for being a non-Gambian, and you've been subjected to some forms of discrimination because of that in the Gambia. Where do you think this mostly comes from?
It's changed quite a lot in recent times. I remember anytime I traveled quite often in the past, and anytime I was coming back, there was always this question of whether I was Nigerian or Sierra Leonean or Gambian. And I always say, there's no unique Gambian identity.
Hmm.
If you study history and you study the migration of people from one territory to another, we always say the original Gambian was the Bainunka, the Jola. Everybody else had to immigrate from somewhere. But my last name is unique. It's Aku. In Banjul, everyone is quite familiar with the last name. But the moment you move outside Banjul, it becomes a question because Carr, I think, is Irish or Scottish. So I don't blame people for that. But when it comes to the looks and the profiling, that's where I have a problem. Some people profile you even before they see the last name. Like when you're crossing the border back in the day by land, they haven't seen your passport yet, but every time they would ask me to go into the little room. It's usually a space where the NIA goes through your stuff. And eventually they realize I'm a Gambian, I'm a public servant, and they let me go. So I've endured that in the past. Fortunately for me, I don't think I've endured that in the last 6, 7 years.
Hmm.
So I don't know what has changed, but I'll say thumbs up for that.
Yes. So I'm curious though, even though recently you've not experienced that, I would like to understand from your perspective in respect to what do you think this is a part of, whether do you think this is a part of a larger problem? For example, like some Fullers until today, as a tribe, are subjected to this. You hear every now and then some immigration officer stop some light skinned looking dude somewhere and ask them for their ID at the exclusion of everybody else. And so it's not only unique to Gambia. You go to other African countries too. You look a certain way, you're perhaps subjected to same sort of scrutiny. But would you perhaps say this is part of a larger systemic problem, or at least a mindset problem to us as Africans?
I think between me and you, I think, and the audience, of course, I think we have a
Mhm.
serious identity crisis, especially in sub Saharan Africa. I always say I blame colonialism for a lot of our identity issues because we are Africans before anything else. We actually discriminate more against other black people than we do against Europeans. That's the reality. I mean, I have a business in Senegambia. I co-own a business in Senegambia, and I witness this all the time. It is easier for a Gambian to discriminate against a Sierra Leonean or Nigerian or Liberian than it is for instance, a Norwegian or
Mhm.
Swede. So we have deep rooted identity crisis issues, and I think that's why integration in sub-Saharan Africa is a problem, and that's also why our development as a subcontinent is so difficult, because you'll see how integrated Europe is, how integrated North America is, well, apart from recent times. And
Mhm.
Asia is also moving towards that direction. But in West Africa, even the Senegalese Gambia debate is a very deep rooted issue. So for me, I think you're right in saying it's a more deep rooted, wider problem than we call it out to be. I mean, you actually have Fullers discriminating against other Fullers in the Gambia. It is not unique
Yeah.
to an other tribe discriminating against a different tribe. You have within the same tribe system itself, you do have discrimination. So that's really really insane if you ask me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, totally. I'm completely with you on that. But lad, moving on. Already you've hinted about your business aspect of you, and I begin this conversation by saying that there are various layers of who lad really is and what you like to do. It's not only the social media bit. You're also a businessman too. And lad, I don't know whether you were with me. I've lost a visual of you already, lad. There's a lot of echo.
Yeah. I didn't get that. Could you come again?
Yes, we can see you. For some reason, I'm just hearing a lot of interference coming from your end.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I do hear you, but there is no visual. It's just dark.
There's no video. I can see myself. I think it broke off for a
No, no
second, so
visual.
it's gonna take a few seconds to come back.
Yeah. Okay. Well, from my experience, usually it takes a while, but if you, yeah, there's a lot of noise coming out. Lad, guys, I'm so really sorry about that again. This is never my wish to begin conversations, and in the middle of it, we have problems with the internet. But I've come to accept the reality that internet is a major problem in the Gambia, and so I indulge all of you to bear with me, bear with us, as we attempt to continue this conversation. And hopefully, Lad tries to come back again. If we cannot, then there's also the possibility to reschedule this interview. Started very well, wonderful conversation, wonderful thoughts already shared. But hopefully, I'm able to get Lad back, and we can forge on. Sorry, Gambia. Sorry, you guys didn't hear that. Said you guys didn't hear that at all. Lad, welcome back. Sorry about that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. So to continue, I was just gonna ask you really quick, what your business interests and venturing into entrepreneurship. Where did that come from?
Well, I think when I came home from studies, one of the things I realized was the things that I used to enjoy when I traveled were non existent here. And so I decided to start creating those things for myself. Luckily, I found a lot of like-minded people like Amran Gay, Sering Job, Banky Gray Johnson, Jibu Balagay back in the day. And it kind of motivated me to invest time, resources into ideas that were non-existent then. Things like the creative arts, poetry, expression, theater, and later on education and hospitality. So I think my inspiration when it comes to entrepreneurship comes from a personal need to fill certain gaps. And that has motivated me to learn. It hasn't been an easy journey. Entrepreneurship in the Gambia, Mr. Sonko, is quite challenging, quite tasking. But when it's things you're passionate about, you learn. You take time, you learn, you evolve, and eventually things become more dynamic. So that's the motivation is mostly personal.
And if I may ask you, obviously you talked a little bit about your academic journey. So if you'd walk us through a bit of that, because part of what I've learned about you is the fact that you are an engineer by training, and so you veered into other areas as well. So to what extent did you part of your studies include any sort of business, and how did you come to that decision? Even though you've seen an opportunity back home, you ventured into starting up a business, but to what extent did your academic training prepared you for what you saw back home in terms of opportunities and to be an entrepreneur in the Gambia as well?
I think I've always had a vision. I've always had a vision for impactful change. I've always had that vision. And I've realized um, with a lot of visions, you have to invest. You have to invest in those things. I don't have a business background. Of course, when you're studying, I did both engineering, petroleum engineering, and engineering management in uni. And so, as part of engineering management, you'll have to do macro and microeconomics, business
Hmm.
management, international trade, and things like that. So, there is an academic training when it comes to that. But investment entrepreneurship is always self-driven. It has very little to do with academic background. I mean, you have a lot of business consultants around the world that have never invested in a business because they have the academic background, but don't have the practical experience, the influential expertise, or even the passion to invest in
Hmm.
business. I mean, I didn't grow up around business people in my family. My dad and mom were lifetime civil servants, teachers, my public servants. My grandmother was the businesswoman, but we were never really exposed to that side of things. She educated her kids at the most prestigious universities in the world, and I always see that as a missed opportunity. She didn't get her kids to join her on the business journey, but fortunately, I love entrepreneurship. I love business ideas. I love sharing with people that have more knowledge than I do, and so that set me off on that path.
So, if you may also walk us through your, premier professional experiences as well after you graduating. Obviously, the business part of it you've already elucidated, but have you worked in public service in the Gambia? And if you have, where was it? And really, what was some of the things that you've learned working in Gambian public spaces?
Well, from high school, I was immediately employed by. I don't even know what to call that, but I was immediately employed by the office of the president under the former president. I had over the years I had extremely impressive results in school from primary school, and so I was on a government scholarship in high school. So following that and my head boyship at Gambia High, I got recognized by the office of the president quite early. So after finishing high school,
Well, we've lost that again. Yeah. Um, Sorry about that, guys. There's
yes. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but we can't see you, and there's a lot of noise coming from your end too. It's a lot of interference. Let me see this one more time. Sorry about that, guys. I'm just gonna try to see if we can put a better time. Sincerely apologize, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to reschedule to have Lad. We're gonna figure out the internet situation, but this is not sustainable. This is not fair to you. It's not fair to Lad. It's not fair to me because we can't really have any serious. Why? So once again, I just talked to Lad, Carr, we have a problem with internet in the Gambia, and it's going to be near impossible to continue with the conversation. But I can guarantee you that Lad would be back on a better date and with better internet connectivity, and we would crack on with the conversation on the set of issues that I really would want to explore with him. You all can see already how good he is, how articulate he is, and how brilliant he is. And that's exactly what I like. So thank you all very much for being here, and stick around. I'm going to be talking to Kemo Bojang shortly.